Shoujos are so freaking thirsty. Shoujos are so thirsty, and I absolutely love it. We're not even through the first episode of this new show, and we already have the dog guy character literally tackling down this girl in a closet and licking her up and down. There's gotta be a story reason behind it. He's got a fever, it's messing with his bestial instincts, I don't know, we'll find out. But yes, I always love watching all these other shows with harems and stuff like that, and people getting upset about how thirsty they are, and then you pop over here and girls are thirsty too. Can we shatter this expectation and expect that, yes, women like this stuff too? It's perfectly fine. Those chiseled furry abs and all that other stuff, they love it. But yes, I watched the first episode of With You, Our Love Will Make It Through, and so far it's pretty good. It's got a lot of like undertones of here about, discrimination and whatnot, all while you have the two main characters trying to find love with each other, despite the fact that it seems like society is not too accepting of the other side. But let's get into it. Our story opens up with our main character, Asuka. As she's rushing to school, she's running late. Eventually, she gets to the school, and the school gates are closed. She didn't make it in time. But she always has this other route that she goes in order to sneak over the side of the gate. She ends up bumping to a guy that has their school uniform on. She jumps up at the gate and goes to welcome him up to help him up there. Come to find out, this guy is actually a beast folk. Yes, in this world, everything's pretty much normal and like our world, but there's an existence of beast folk. In the past, there was some experiments done, and apparently it bred this new rare species. There's only like 3,000 of them, and they're typically kept within like this one walled area, mainly because it seems like, they can be actually prone to violence. But yes, it does seem like after they go through some sort of screening with the government, they can actually leave that facility and go out into the world of the humans. And yes, it seems like this particular beast folk has actually gone through that process and is now transferring into her school. Well, after she offers to help him up on the fence, he ends up jumping over it, saying, "Thank you. You helped me make my decision." Before he helps her get down from the fence and says that she's really light. Jump to class, she's kind of flustered over this, the fact that he said that she was light, the fact that she touched him and talked to him. But then turns out, yes, he's actually transferring into her class. And yes, like usual anime logic, he's sitting right next to her. As expected with this new beast folk, his name Hidaka, being at this school, yes, he becomes the center of attention for everybody. There's constantly people at the door of the class looking in there, wanting to catch a peek of him, and even have guys walking up and asking really rude questions of him, like if he can talk to dogs. But it doesn't seem like it affects Hidaka. As Asuka puts it, despite his size and despite what he is, it seems like of everybody in the entire class, he's the most quiet. He just quietly sits there and studies. And a lot of the insults and whatnot seem to kind of just roll off his back. Well, cut to after school, Asuka's walking home and she's crossing this bridge. And at some point she noticed there's some guys, getting rough with somebody behind her. She turns around, comes to find out it's Hidaka. Two guys insulting him, blocking his way. He requests politely they let him go by, until eventually he decides to just jump on the guardrail and just run past them, before he almost falls on Asuka and rediverts himself and falls into the river, which she quickly rushes down there thinking that he's going to drown, but it looks like he can actually swim. On the side of the river, Asuka finally gets to do the thing that she's wanted to do all day. Thank him for helping her down the wall. To which this makes him really happy. He starts wagging his tail. This is like the first time it seems like any human has ever thanked him for anything. Additionally, he thanks her for actually worrying about him. Following this, Asuka ends up taking him back to her place where they can, dry off and take a quick shower. There he disclose himself without even thinking about it, and she ends up seeing his chiseled abs and gets all flustered. He ends up helping her get some detergent down from this upper shelf, and he very briefly touches his nose to her lips, and they get all doki doki. But this sort of stirs something in Hidaka. The fact that he got so close to her and smelled something really sweet, it put something in the pit of his stomach. Like he had a weird sensation. Cut the next day, we get to see Hidaka showing off his skills in basketball. He's very athletic, which seems to be sort of an inherent trait of beast folks, which has sort of led them to being locked out of certain clubs. And while Asuka is having troubles keeping her eyes off of him, yes, Hidaka ends up catching the attention of a group of guys that don't like him around, don't like the sight of him, don't want him involved in their sports and whatnot. And while Asuka and Hidaka are cleaning up after the PE class, these guys end up locking them inside of this closet. And this is an interesting part because Hidaka himself, all the way up until this point, seems very calm, collected. Despite the fact that they claim that beast folks are more violent, it seems like Hidaka is not letting really anything bother him. He's very good at sort of avoiding situations, diffusing situations, any insults or badgering. He just kind of lets it roll off his back. Here he starts to divulge to Asuka herself what he's sort of aiming towards, and the fact that all of this stuff is sort of distracting him for his ultimate dream. See, in the area where the beast folk are supposed to remain at, they don't have any sort of hospitals or treatment clinics. Every injury they get, they have to treat it themselves. The only time they're allowed to go to an actual human hospital is if they're in a really bad state. Then they can get granted access to leave the facility and then go out to a hospital. So Hidaka wants to quickly become a doctor so that he can then open his own clinic inside the facility so that he can treat minor injuries and whatnot. And yes, because of all this bullying and people badgering him, and yes, now this whole situation, it's all distracting him from what he's wanting to do, his ultimate goal. Despite the fact that he just wants to be left alone, people won't leave him alone. This upsets Asuka, obviously, that people would be willing to get in the way of Hidaka and his dream. She consoles him, holds his hand, tries to warm up his hands because they're cold because of his nervousness, wanting to give him some sort of help and comfort because she sees him as a friend. Before Asuka trips and goes to fall, and Hidaka catches her and is really close to her and smells that sweet, sweet scent again before starting to lose control, claiming that he may have gotten a fever, and starts licking up her neck over and over again and pins her down, and she starts to think to herself, why did this happen? He's going to eat me. And then the episode closes with Hidaka munching at her viewpoints. What a way to leave an episode. It was so good up until that point, and it's like, why leave it on that? You know he's not doing something to her. That's the frustrating part. But yeah, anyways, that's the gist of With You, Our Love Will Make It Through. So my thoughts on this show so far. Let's get first thing out of the way. Millipinzi. They're getting better, but I really don't like the studio. I have never liked the studio. I don't think a single thing out of Millipinzi I will ever like, and that's unfortunate. Yes, this is a studio that did, Cheat Skill, Akitsura, yes, the new Berserk. They're typically doing CGI, but now they're kind of getting into more 2D stuff with some CGI. There's a very little use of CGI in this first episode, but here and there you can see it. It doesn't look too bad. What I've grown to not like Millipinzi for, more than the CGI, which is always bad, is the constant use of really close-up shots rather than seeing what's happening in the environment. Rather than showing an action, they'll just show the close-up of something and not really allow you to see what's actually happening. And they're using that quite a bit with this show. It's just constantly shots of objects really close up, or the characters really close up, so you can't even see what's happening in the shot. I hate the crap. I hate it. I really do. That aside, I like this show so far. So there's multiple facets to the show. Okay, first things first, the romance itself, yes. And first and foremost, this is a story about two individuals that I would assume at some point is going to have a conflict because they're not supposed to be together, that are together. A human and a beast folk, they're getting together, they have a relationship, and I would assume that they haven't got into it yet, but I would assume that society itself probably doesn't allow it. Now, I do have a theory that it might be allowed, and that might be through Ida. Ida has massive canines, and typically male characters don't really show canines in anime. Now, that could just be an artistic choice by the mangaka, but I kind of wonder if Ida might be half beast folk, half human, and it's just more to human traits except for his canines. And that might explain why he's trying to help out Hidaka, is because his father or something is probably a beast folk. Anyways, that aside, my assumption is that this is going to be a society where they're allowing the beast folk to come out of that location and come into human society, but they're probably not allowed to mingle. And that could be for, genetic reasons or whatever. It could just be for, keeping it separate, that kind of thing. Or it could just really come down to what they've shown in this first episode, a massive amount of discrimination. But so far, their relationship has kind of played out okay. It's really the idea that Asuka, even though at first she was shocked by the existence of a beast folk, she notes that they're in society, but now she's kind of very directly near one of them. It seems like she can't help but keep her eyes off of him. And yes, that's really through the fact that he shows off the abs and the pecs are all chiseled and she's all flustered over it, yada, yada, yada. But there is also an element of her kind of liking him as a person. Even though there's all these people being mean to him, he's very gentle, he's very kind, he's helping her out, he apologizes. She likes the kind of person that he is, his dreams, his desires, and wants to help him with those things. There is a physical connection, but there is also seemingly an emotional connection that she's already having with him. On the opposite end, haven't really gotten too much from Hidaka himself, and that's really because most of this has been her perspective. I would like to get a little bit more from him, besides what he kind of tells her at the very end, what his dreams are, which I think are great. And the idea that this guy wants to create a clinic, I'm going to assume that he's probably got somebody back at home that's not doing well, and he wants to create a clinic to be able to help them. It could have been simply that he knew somebody that thought they had a minor injury, and before they could get treatment, they died, something like that. He's probably got some sort of driving force around somebody being sick or was sick that died. And that aside, I think he's a really cool guy. So far, he seems like a cool guy. I like his nature of kind of letting things roll off his back. I think the dog thing was super cute. I'm sorry. That whole thing, I loved it. The idea that somebody came to him, badgering him, saying, hey, you're mostly dog, right? Can you talk to dogs? And he's like, I don't know, I've never met a dog. I'll try it sometime. Dude, you're like too nice. And then later on, literally, again, at Asuka's house, she has a dog, and he's like, hey, can you understand me? Yeah, I guess not. Well, that's a bust. Like, he literally followed through with it. He went to get the answer the guy had. Like, he's too nice. He's too nice. He seems like a cool dude. He seems like a very chill dude. Just wants to get his studies done, get to his dream, be able to open that clinic and help him out, and not to let anybody around him bother him. Which that all gets into, yes, the whole discrimination factor. I am very curious to see how deep they'll actually get into the discrimination factor and the societal aspect of the beast folk. Is it something this writer really wants to dig into, or is it just going to facilitate the idea that he's isolated and she's doki doki for him, and together they'll overcome it? So far, it's much deeper than I expected it to be. And the idea that you do have a society that is sort of, cut off from each other, but there is commingling happening through the approval of their government. And I think that does sort of open the door to, yes, people not really having much interaction with the beast folk, and thus having their preconceived notions. They're dangerous, aren't they? Yeah, they technically are, but don't worry, the government screens them beforehand. I would assume probably puts them through some tests, see if they're like prone to violence. And yeah, as we've seen with this episode, several cases where people are being mean to Hidaka, and he doesn't let it bother him. He even puts it to Asuka at some point, I don't lash back out, because if I do, they'll see me more as a monster. I don't want that. He doesn't want them to see them as monsters, and then yes, probably make more discrimination for somebody else. Even the people back at home are saying, hey, are you okay? Are they bullying you? No, they're not bullying me. Yeah, they are, but he's not letting them know because he probably doesn't want to create more of that stigma, even in his own home. Yeah, and there's also the aspect he doesn't want them to worry. But they're doing a pretty good job so far kind of establishing a world that has this presence of beast folk, only very slowly kind of being presented. The obvious discrimination that will be caused because of that lack of interaction, that lack of normalcy there in the existence of the beast folk. Why I mean like getting more into it besides this, the romance aspect of it, is getting more into that stuff there. Why they're kind of closed off, what created the beast folk to begin with, why are they secluded in the way they are? Is it purely based on the fact that they're violent and the government itself is afraid of it, but they do want to include them into society? Like, what is the overall purpose of keeping them secluded and yet also keeping them around? It kind of makes me believe that it's probably something to do with the government itself being involved in those experiments, and this is a way to kind of do right to the species that was created because of it by letting them exist, but also keeping them at arm's length. That all said, I think it's a good balance so far. It's not doing too much, not doing too little. It's got a good setup here. I do think that Asuka and Hidaka so far is pretty solid together. Some cute little moments between the two of them, besides how thirsty things get at the very end. Theories. I was meaning to get to this. Theories on the last part. It's super thirsty. It is super, super thirsty. I mean, the entire episode is super thirsty. Asuka's got some gaze going on with her. She's constantly looking at this boy. But yes, that later bit there is super thirsty. Hidaka climbing on top of her, pinning her down, licking her neck. They've already gotten to the idea that the beast folk themselves are prone to violence. And so this could just be basic instinct. He can't control himself because his instincts wants to consume or whatever. And yes, it could turn the idea because he smells her, because he's in love with her, he smells a scent of, I don't know, you can get more into biological aspects there. He smells something, it's making him go in heat or whatever, and he's getting all flustered and wanting to lick her. I have another theory, and this actually could be cool, and I highly doubt they're doing this. Because it's a thirsty shoujo, it's probably more so the first thing there. Biological smell there. He smells her, he's getting in heat, and he's trying to control himself. And he's probably going to stop himself and go, I am sorry. And then she's going to get flustered and go, no, it's okay because Doki Doki, he was so forceful. Shoujo. A cool thing they could do, and this actually plays into what he wants to become. I've been around dogs my entire life. One thing that I learned at some point, it's an oddity about dogs themselves, they can smell diseases. They can smell when you're hurt, you have something going on with you. I've heard cases of dogs licking somebody in a certain spot on their arm or the leg, and come to find out they actually had like a cancer. And the dog was able to smell it, and they were going after it. Hidaka could actually turn into probably the best doctor in the world. Why I'm saying this is because there's so much emphasis on the idea that he smells something sweet. I don't think it's going to turn out that Asuka actually has some sort of disease in her neck and he's smelling it and he's trying to get to it, and then come to find out she's got something like, I don't know, some throat cancer or something like that. But it sort of made me kind of think of that. That would be really cool if Hidaka at some point becomes a doctor, becomes the best doctor, because he's able to smell where things are at. Before something is even scanned or found, he's able to find it. And that can turn into something that helps people accept him. That he has a basic knowledge of medicine, and when he smells something on somebody, he can say, hey, I think you should get this checked out. I think you may have this, just based on his scent alone. Again, I doubt they're going to do that. It's probably just going to be that he smells her and he gets in heat, but it would be cool. It would be cool. Just based on my knowledge of dogs and stuff. I thought that would be really cool. Anyways, weird, stupid theory aside, because it's a thirsty manga. If it turns out to be real, that'd be cool. That aside, I am looking forward to more of this. I'm actually excited to see the appearance of the cat girl, because I know her seiyuu is Edis Greyrat, and I think that's actually hilarious that the seiyuu for Edis Greyrat is voicing a cat girl, because she does the whole, teach Binya thing. She likes beast folk. So having an anime where she is a beast folk is going to be great. But we'll have to see. I'm assuming that she's probably coming there in order to claim Hidaka, because she probably likes Hidaka. And I'm assuming Ida is going to be the one that's after Asuka and doesn't like Hidaka going with him. But we'll see. But that's my thoughts so far on the furry show. I went an entire video without making a furry joke. Are you guys proud of me? The furry show is here. I'm enjoying it so far. Looking forward to more. But I hope you guys enjoyed my first impressions of this show. If you did, hit the like button down below. If you like this content and you want to support channel more, become a member of the channel. Until next time, y'all take care.